All right. There you go. It's officially 12:30. And as the chairman is not here today, I will be acting in his place to call the meeting to order for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities Commission. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Vice Chair Wesley Curtis,
Present?
Commissioner Harold Day,
Present.
Commissioner Harold Eustache,
Present.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Here.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Here.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Present.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Present.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
In attendance.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Present but distant, I guess.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Present.
Very good. We do have, as you noticed, two commissioners that are remotely. Charles wanted to be with us today, but he could not, I guess, because of a couple of coughing. He didn't want to show up and cough all over everybody. So we appreciate that, Charles. And we know Alan is out of town and there. One of the benefits, I guess, we have of what we've learned, I guess, being able to do this virtually. There was a time that if you couldn't be here, then that was just it. You just was not here. You were out of town, you were done for. But now we've got the opportunity with technology to kind of get us through this thing so that everybody can still participate at some level. So that's the good thing about what we've learned, I guess. The next item on our list, I guess, is something very special and dear to my heart to some degree. There's a gentleman at the very end of the table that we'd like to, that will be, this is his last meeting. And yes, his last meeting as a member of the commission anyway. Mr. Day, you don't have to stand. You You're fine. We do have a resolution for Harold Day. He's been with the commissioners for what, 10 years?
Long, quick 10.
Long, quick 10 years, time flies, I guess, as you know. He's been a very valuable asset to the commission. One of the things the commission seeks to do is have just a diversity of opinions from all different sides. And I think that's a very good advantage for having a commission that is able to look at different kinds of opinions from different directions. So Harold, you've been there. I know you've been a thorn. No. You've been a great contact to the community. A lot of people in the community look to you to call just to kind of, and we want that sort of input from the community. So we certainly appreciate that. So I'll ask, let's see. Okay, good. You're going to read it then?
Yes, the resolution of appreciation to Harold E. Day. Whereas the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission was founded in June 1976. And whereas Harold E. Day has been generous with his time and effort to serve on the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission from 2012 to 2022. And whereas during his tenure, he served on the Operations Committee. And whereas Harold E. Day's term on the commission ends June 30, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission, a joint agency of the city of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, that it hereby expresses sincere appreciation to Harold E. Day for 10 years of dedicated service given to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission and the citizens of Winston-Salem and Forsyth counties. Be it further resolved that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission acknowledges that the significant contributions Harold E. Day has made to the delivery of high-quality services to the citizens of this city and county. Be it further resolved that this resolution is reflected in the minutes of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission, and a copy is furnished to Harold E. Day. This resolution of appreciation to Harold E. Day has been adopted this 13th day of June, 2022.
Very good. Let's give a also a pen. Is that what's a pen? That's yours, and we'll hand you this, and that's also the Chris, if you'll come up. Something special we also want to give you as a commission members.
So Harold, as many of you know, things kind of got disarray with COVID with our meetings. And for Harold, one of his biggest issues and challenges with COVID was the fact that he couldn't come here for lunch.
That's right.
So what we decided as a commission, since you're kind of got a little bit of backlog, this isn't really gonna help much with the backlog. But we did also know about Beverly and what a tight rein she keeps on your budget.
She does.
So what we've got is, you've got a house up on top of Sourtown. This is a gift certificate to Little Italy, which is in King. So you can take Beverly to the restaurant, and then when you pay for it, she'll have no idea. Because I know she's not watching this. She'll have no idea. She'll start going back, where did you get that money from?
That's a good question. She'll ask.
On that. So anyway, thank you, Harold. You definitely will be missed, but we will be keeping in contact.
Very good.
And again, just a water bottle so you can drink our water.
You know, the first meeting I was at, we had bottled water here, and I asked why.
That's right. We don't serve bottled water, so we have a water bottle where you can get it out of the fountain, okay?
I tell you, I want to say a couple of things. The thing about this, people take this job as just another job, another commission to be on. But if you think about this, we touch every life daily in this community for having good quality water. And we spend a lot of money for it. And people take it for granted in this community because we got some of the best. And I want everybody to remember, when we're on this commission, the decisions we make touch everybody in this community every day. And our staff. It's a daily thing that we all do. And when I first got on here, I did, well, it's just another place to go. But this is an important commission to be on because we touch everybody's life every day in this community and come surrounding. So.
Here, very good, very good.
Yes, a picture. You want to stand up or you want to stay seated? I'll let you stand in the middle.
Oh, yeah. I need to stretch. Get up. Don't take long like my mama take a picture now.
Okay. Oh, I was going to go on the other side.
Well, no.
You take-
All right.
That's a good idea. And good, the lights are even on. When you're ready, y'all ready? Thank you, that's a good one.
Thanks again, Harold. Hey, I'm sure we'll hear more from you.
I asked Courtney the other day, was she gonna block my number for herself?
I told him I'm sure he'll still call me because people will call him.
Thank you, Harold.
It's good. It's been a 10 quick years, really has.
That's right. Okay, so because, that's right, we do need to formally adopt this, so we'll take a vote.
So moved.
Second. All right, there's a vote was moved by Chris and seconded by Tom. For the resolution for Mr. Harold Day, all those in favor, show.
Gotta do roll call.
Oh, that's right. Hybrid roll call, so Beth roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Harold Day,
Maybe.
Commissioner Harold Eustache,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
Definitely.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yes.
All right, sounds like that's unanimous. All right, very good. The next item on our list, Courtney. I'll take it.
Yep, okay. Well, welcome everybody to our new space and we're really glad you're here. We're able to use it. I do have a couple announcements. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully I'll be able to do this. Everywhere I go, I have to figure out the new. Okay, so I just want to point out this picture. This was at a career fair at NC State. And this is Jordan Toney on the left. He's one of our new project engineers. And then Gail, of course, you know. And then Gordon Dively on the right-hand side is our solid waste manager. So.
There's a lady in the middle.
She photobombed. They were at the next booth, but yeah,
What did Gail say it caused her?
they're very friendly, lovely neighbors. So we've done the resolution appreciation. I'm just gonna keep going. I do wanna mention we've got planning and development services here. We've got Chris and Kirk and Tiffany with us. So Chris is gonna give, he's the director of planning and development services. He's gonna give us an overview of the development dashboard and some other things that are going on in his department. And then Kirk, I thought he was here. Is he right here?
I'm here.
Oh, you're standing behind here. So Kirk has actually just recently been promoted to the deputy director for that department. So congratulations to Kirk. And then Tiffany White is a project planner, and she's actually my mentee for the year, and we've just been paired up. So she's here observing the utility commission. So we're glad to have her here as well. And then I will also mention another one of my mentees who's right behind me, Tanya Banner, who is in budget. She's also here observing today. So, and then we've got our normal updates. Okay. Couple of other announcements. Ricky Rubio, who's sitting in the back corner, who's also been promoted to assistant utilities director over business services. So congratulations to Ricky. Lisa is, I guess she's on there, but Lisa Saunders, our CFO. Are you here, Lisa?
I'm here.
I can't see you, but I'm glad you're here.
Okay,
So,
great.
this is her last commission meeting.
Yeah.
She's retiring at the end of June, and so we certainly are going to miss her. She's been just so instrumental in everything that we've done financially, getting us in a good financial position, and that is just so important for our utility. So definitely going to miss her. And then Kelly Latham, who's been participating in the utility commission meetings virtually. She joined the city during COVID. She's stepping into Lisa's role as the CFO. So we're definitely in good hands with Kelly too. She's got a lot of experience with Winston as well as other utilities from her previous jobs. So anyway, Lisa, anything you want to say?
Thank you, Courtney, and thank you, members of the commission. It's been an honor to work with you as CFO for the last 10 years and with the city of Winston-Salem for 35. So it's been really good, and I appreciate all my time here. So thank you very much. Kelly's going to do a great job for you.
So Lisa,
Yes.
what you gonna do with yourself?
Oh, I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who's probably going to keep me really busy over the next little bit. But other than that, no real plans.
Good. Well, good for you. Good for you. We'll miss you for sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Courtney.
So we have 66 departmental vacancies, which is still a lot, but actually down a lot from last month. I think we were 73, 75. So yeah, 66 still high, but we're making some progress, which is a good thing. Just a reminder, the city has there's a Juneteenth festival, and it's June 18th at Biotech Place. And Gail, we have a booth. We will have a booth there. I'll mention we have 2 summer interns that are starting today. They're not here because they're in a different part of the rotation, but they'll be here in July to meet this group. What the Public Works Department does is we have hired interns that go through transportation, stormwater, engineering, utilities, so they get to see all parts of city government as it relates to public works. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for students to learn about city government and public works specifically. I'm not gonna get into too much detail about this, but just expect an email from me about utility commission portraits. The last time we did a group shot, we don't have all of our members still. You know, there's been some turnover on members, so we need to get a new group shot. But until then, what we're gonna do is put in individual portraits. So if you have an individual self-portrait that you can send me, and/or I can set you up marketing to get one, that's what's gonna be put on the website in the interim till we get a group shot. It's hard to get us all together, which is why we need to go to the individual portrait. contractors. So just keep that in mind. And then last thing I want to mention before we dive into everything is the Nielsen Water Treatment Plant project team had a community event this past Saturday, and I've got some pictures I'll show. But it was Ullman Shooty, Black and Veatch, and some of our staff. And Ullman Shooty is the contractor for the Nelson job project. Black and Veatch is the engineer, and then of course members from our team, and they worked on a habitat house this past Saturday. So not only good for the community to do that kind of volunteer work, but also just good for our project. There's having that coordination and collaboration between the contractor, the engineer, and our staff, I think is going to serve us well.
Was that the equivalent of a ribbon cutting, like an opening of it?
No, I think it wasn't that. It's just they decided to, like a partner event, to get together, have some teamwork. And then they had decided to do this type of volunteer work as part of that partnering session. So
Yeah, when we started today, that was a flat slab, a bare slab.
they did a lot.
Yeah, we put a bunch of utility engineers and construction people to work. That's why.
That's what happens, right? So anyway, I wanted to point that out and I think that we built a good relationships for the project going forward. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna pull up Chris's presentation and turn it over to Chris. It is right here. Okay.
Thank you, Courtney. I'll probably just sit here. I think that'll be more comfortable. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize until Friday afternoon that the City County Utility Commission no longer like to be referred to as the City County Utility Commission. So if you see that in the slide presentation, just kind of know that's old news now to us. Well, Winston-Salem County Utility Commission is what we'll go by. But if you would just move to the next slide. What I want to kind of do is kind of build a little bit of a story and kind of where we are and where we're going and how our respective departments need to work together very closely over the next several years. Of course, for those that aren't aware, permitting and plan review, our numbers have been through the roof, and they've been through the roof since a little bit before COVID. And IDT plans and city works are our respective plan review and permitting systems. And they've been in some state of flux over the last 5 years. We actually completed an upgrade to city works last October, which got it back talking with our plan review system, IDT plans, which made our life simpler there. It improved field functionality for our inspectors. And that's very important, again, because we've been experiencing unprecedented growth, which is kind of like how I'm kind of building this story. In addition to that, obviously, just like how the Utility Commission adapted to COVID, we had to adapt to COVID as far as how we were going to handle the volume of permits and things that we were doing, because like I said, it didn't slow down. If anything, it sped up. And of course, the assistant city manager who's sitting here was part of the team at the time. And as he likes to say, we were kind of repairing the plane as we were flying it, because we went from accepting, folks walking into our door to pull permits to trying to have to figure out how we were going to do it. And we started off doing it via email and scanning and faxing and back and forth. But as we were doing that, we were able to leverage IDT plans, the system that we already had, to then fold our residential review into what we were already doing for commercial review. So again, continues to be a work in progress and process, but we are slowly turning that ship and getting everything approved in a reasonable time frame. If you would move to the next.
That looks like one of my projects on there.
It probably is.
Hey, I love it. Yes, Chris.
So what, when you say reasonable time frame, what does that mean?
Well, from a commercial standpoint, we've always been for upfits 5 days for the initial review and 10 days for commercial. And we've kind of always kept to that. For residential, you used to be able to walk in the door and generally speaking, walk out with a permit. And obviously, since you can't walk in our door, you can't walk out with it. That was never really fair to our staff to have to sit there under the pressure of someone sitting in front of them to like kind of review it and put the kind of review on it they needed. Generally speaking, 3 days.
Yeah, that's
3
great.
days.
That is great.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, when we went live, it was a lot more choppy than that. And we've had some kind of fits and starts where, you know, just like staffing issues and utilities, we've had staffing issues in the permit office, we're still not fully staffed. We still have 2 or 3 vacancies we're trying to fill. But generally speaking, we're doing a pretty good job of hitting that committed time frame. And we had discussions with the development community on that, especially the home builders and realtors, and discussed that with them. And they felt like that was reasonable. There's still folks who still want to come in and get permits, but I don't think we're going back to that.
There are other cities that much longer than that. So really, yeah.
Speaking of unprecedented growth, what's before you here? And I actually have copies for folks up front if you want to have a copy. You know, it's one of those things where we probably need to interagency cooperation. We probably need to be sending this to Courtney, who could disseminate it out to you as a commission. But we've done something called the development dashboard for 7, 8 years now, probably. And last year, calendar year 2021 was a record year. We did over $1.1 billion in permitted value permits. That's constructed value. So that's substantial. It was about 670, 680 non-residential / commercial, which could be mixed use that has some residential in it, but almost $700 million worth of commercial and $400 billion of residential construction, primarily single family. And that's what those, the images on the left of that show. And again, it's probably hard to read it from, I can't read it from here, but again, I do have some handouts for you. The chart at the top would be our largest 10 projects as far as constructed value. The Forsyth County Courthouse was #1. And again, you know, keep in mind, this is, while all these may not be tax-based, they are certainly adding construction jobs and kind of driving the economy. So all those aren't taxable as far as tax-based, but they are our large projects. And the map at the bottom just kind of shows the geographic distribution of where we issued permits throughout the county over the course of the entire year. And the size of the circle kind of corresponds to the value of the project.
I'll add one thing to what Chris mentioned here, because I think it's important as you think about the work that the planning board does and how it relates to utilities commission. You see where those dots are located. You guys know kind of the boundaries of the Muddy Creek Basin and what can be served with gravity sewer. And I think what you'll see more and more is look at, that's still your thunder a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're still on the story. I'm going.
What's number 6? I can't read it.
Argyle?
Ardall, it's the metal beverage container building, the 600,000 square foot building built out there off Union Cross Road. Wahlberg Road. Sorry.
Pretty dry there.
Yeah. If you would go ahead and move to the next one. This image is this is the same report. The fourth quarter for the image we just saw was for the fourth quarter, which looks back at the kind of the year in review. This is the Q1 report for calendar year 2022. And I'm not going to trust my mind. I can't read my numbers from here, but so far in Q1 of this past year, we did 225 million of commercial / non-residential and about 83 or 84 million in residential. So at almost $310 million of constructed value in the first quarter, which who knows what's going to happen with the economy, with inflation. If we were to keep this rate of growth, again, it would be another record year. Again, I think we'll probably cool off a little bit with interest rates and inflation the way they're going. But again, this is just kind of, you know, showing how busy we are, kind of the economic engine that, you know, development is for the overall community. Kind of tying in and kind of putting the bow on it where Aaron was going, that kind of ties into, you know, some of the issues that we're seeing with, you know, growth and projects. And, you know, Courtney and Mike have had to come over to the county multiple occasions over the last couple of months to talk to the commissioners on some potential development projects where they're providing public sewer, but it's a private collection system that's going to be pumped into a city county utility gravity system or pump station. And you know, part of what we're seeing and what we're experiencing is the fact that the easy properties to develop are gone. There's not I mean, there are some projects within the basin, but not a lot. So, you know, the kind of the development that we're seeing is more and more complex and is going to continue to make us be creative on how we're going to handle those. And if you would go to the next slide, that's going to kind of tie into, you know, some of the work that we're going to have ahead of us over the next several years. We're planning our new comprehensive plan kickoff this fall. It's going to be called Forward 2045. Of course, we have Legacy, which was our comp plan from the late 90s, early 2000s. Then we updated that plan in 2012, and that was the Legacy 2030 update. We're going to be kicking this off this fall. We're already doing briefing the planning board. We're going to be briefing the elected officials this fall, or excuse me, late summer, early fall. We've been working with the planning board, our staff. We have an internal staff committee. Anyway, we're going to be kicking that off. And one of the key components of that will be, just as Legacy and Legacy 2030 had, is going to be the growth management component of that. And that's kind of where that's going to tie into Winston-Salem County Utilities. If you would just hit the next slide and the next one. It's kind of, you know, low growth management. And as Aaron alluded to, you know, this image, you can kind of see where we have identified for growth. The pink color is GMA1, or our downtowns of the respective small towns. The darker kind of yellow color is growth management area 2, which are suburban neighborhoods. And actually, I might have that wrong. And that's right, but I can't differentiate between future and GMA3. Oh yeah, I can't. GMA3 is the lighter yellow. Kind of the lighter green is our growth management area 4 areas, which are areas that are appropriate for density once utilities are available. And the GMA5 is the darker green, primarily along the Yadkin River and in the northeast portion of the county up towards Blues Lake. You know, that's generally speaking been the growth management plan for the last 25 years. Some small deviations between the original Legacy Growth Management Area Plan and the Growth Management Area Plan that was part of the update in 2012. But one of the things we're going to have to be creative with, work with the Utility Commission on, work with the Utility Commission staff on, as part of, and I believe your Water and Sewer Master Plan, as part of some of the policies that the Utility Commission has as far as lift stations. And then with our growth management plan, we're going to have to really partner together to kind of figure out where we want growth to go, where it makes sense for growth to go, both from a development standpoint and from an ability to effectively and cost efficiently provide sewer. So that's kind of where we are. And if you just these next few images just kind of show some of that. You actually saw this, Kirk presented this same information back in February whenever he spoke. Of course, there's the Muddy Creek Basin, the service area, you know, where we say currently where, you know, we can provide sewer, where we want to see development. And then if you'll just flip through, it kind of shows, you know, the areas are experiencing very high growth. The darker the blue, the higher the growth as far as density and population. The red is actually losing population. The next image just kind of shows that same development pattern, but in a heat map that kind of shows you where development is going, kind of where the pressures are And if you'll notice over there in southeastern Forsyth County, what's circled, that's kind of Caleb's Creek, but that's where we're seeing a lot of development requests, kind of the heart of the triad, kind of the convergence of Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point, Kernersville, all of that area, kind of being viewed as a very desirable place to be. But again, right now, a lot of our sewer doesn't cover that base. So you would just go to the next image. And that's, again, showing areas of population decline. And that's what those red areas were. I think the next image is kind of, this is the same thing that Kirk had shared before as far as final thoughts. Basically, Muddy Creek is where the densest growth has been, which makes sense because that's what's able to be sewered. But the areas west and south, as far as Clemens and Louisville, and then the area south of Kernersville, that's kind of where we continue to see growth pressures, and where we're going to have to look and see where we can expand to in the next comp plan. So if you would just kind of, I think there's one more slide. So we're going to be working together on this over the next several years. Both staff and more than likely the utility commission and the planning board will need to have some joint discussions on kind of how we see this playing out. With that, that's kind of all I have as far as be building my story. But you kind of see we've had a lot of permit activity, a lot of growth, and that's what's reflected in the dashboard again that I have up there. If you'd like to have a copy before you leave, but then how are we going to handle this pressure moving forward?
So is this something that we could get, you say the PowerPoint of?
Well, I can definitely send you this PowerPoint, or Courtney actually already has it.
Okay,
but the actual handouts that show those development dashboards are up there on the credenza. So if you would like a copy of that. With that, Kurt, did you have anything to add that I glossed over that you thought was important that I didn't cover? Or?
No, I think Chris did a great job on that. And again, it's just the fact that collaboration is going to be more important than ever going forward when you consider that we're the fourth largest population county in the state out of 100 copies, yet we're one of the smallest from a land area. And we're dealing with multiple basins, the Yadkin Basin, the Dan Basin, and all of these things affect our ultimate density and what we can serve here. So more to come, but we appreciate you all having us today.
I couldn't tell from some of those pictures, but how is the Beltway going to impact that development?
That's a good question. That's one of those things, every time we do a new comprehensive plan, that's one of the things that we need to look at, see if we have had any blind spots in the past, see if there are, issues with some of our recommendations. One of the criticisms, and validly so, of, kind of the growth that we have been experiencing is it's not necessarily, as the images showed, not necessarily equitable, and it's not necessarily in areas that are experiencing food deserts and those kind of things, and that being east of 52. And one of the things that when you kind of look at some of our land use recommendations, have we artificially through our area plan process held some growth back because we don't have ample recommendations for commercial development in areas the east and northeast? I don't have a direct answer to that question, but certainly the Beltway will provide us with opportunities to reevaluate that. I believe that we will probably see some additional commercial recommendations that come out of the comp plan and future area plans that hopefully will be well-planned growth, but also provide opportunities for some development in areas that have been underserved over the last 30, 40 years. So to answer your question, it's definitely going to have an impact. Our comprehensive plans in the past and our area plans have taken that into account some, but now that if you go back and look at when the Beltway first showed up on plans in 1960, and we're in the year 2019, 2020, whenever the first section of that opened. I think it was kind of a, we'll wait and see. Well, now that it's here, we're really gonna have to make sure that we account for that in future plans.
Tom, do you have something you want to say?
No, I didn't know Courtney was going to drop a bomb.
I hope not, no, but, I have discussed Justin, and I mentioned it at the meeting last month, that we do need to think about a policy as far as how to extend sewer into some of these areas, like the Caleb's Creek, area. That's a hot spot and this doesn't have the sewer infrastructure there now, you know, accepting, lift stations in those areas as public infrastructure. When does that make sense? When does that not make sense? Met with Mr. Griffin after last meeting and he advised me on some things that he would like to see before we have a planning and policy meeting. So we're working on that, getting a map together, showing our sewer basin. We're gonna sit down with Chris's team to look at that and how it impacts the drainage basins, the watersheds and things of that nature. So, and then we'll get back with the commission for next steps.
The only thing I was thinking about, Chris's window is 2045. We've got about 45 days to figure out something to satisfy the county commissioners is what it sounds like. So,
well,
I think we're gonna have to move fairly quickly. It sounds like to address the issues that they've got, but I don't want to go so quickly that we miss the boat on the long range part of it.
Again, you don't know what's going to walk in the door between now and whenever you do make a decision. The three cases that were kind of hanging out there that were pending, the county commissioners went ahead and approved those cases with a recommendation, strongly worded recommendation, that the developer continues to work with the utility commission to try to find ways to make those projects public if it fits within the utility commission policies. So again, the immediate need, you know, the commissioners went ahead and moved it on. I'm not sure how quickly those may come through the door for actual permitting. That's out of the way. And then the project, the other project south of Clemens, Riverwalk, south of Tanglewood, there actually may be some opportunities there to already partner with the utility commission through the Tanglewood lift station and some other things. So the immediate need isn't as pressing as it was to have a quick decision. But again, I don't think these are the last ones that are going to come through the door. So I don't think we need to delay our decision, but I think we need to work together to try to come up with a policy that works going forward.
correct, correct.
Very good.
Any other questions for?
You know, I'm guessing what we're talking about here is reflecting like in our item 3 under here.
Yeah, well, yeah, so those are developer initiated projects. And so, yes, it's, where's the development going? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So am I hearing we're gonna have a policy committee meeting in the next
45 days.
Well,
before the next
yeah.
Next week.
Yes, for another reason too. Well, we've got kind of two planning policy meeting items. We've got one to discuss some of the fees, to go in a little bit more deeper discussion about the fees that were presented last month. We brought one of them, the monitoring fees, this month because they're more straightforward. But we do need to meet to discuss, you know, the meter fees, initial service fees, some of those other ones that we talked about. So there will be a planning policy for that. And then in addition to this lift station policy that needs to be developed.
Just need your schedule. We'll work around it. So you'll be in Louisiana.
Okay, well, I appreciate.
Before we move on, let me just say that I certainly appreciate Chris's presentation. I was on the planning board when we were talking about 2030, and it seemed like so far away. Well, it's here. So for us to talk about 45, it seems like so far away, but collaboration between the Utilities Commission and the Planning Department are essential. So wow, it's hard to believe we're talking about this, but we need to, for the reasons that you just mentioned.
Yes, thank you. I mean, in our world, planning, future planning is so important. I mean, the landfill, for utilities, for just development. I mean, you've got to do it, so.
Work together.
Okay, let's keep rolling. I will share my screen again. Okay. Okay, water and wastewater updates. We're gonna start with Bill. He's gonna go through some and then Stover will get the remaining.
You want me up at the front?
Where, yeah, you can stand up there if you want, that's fine. I can't see what's being,
So, obviously, this is the graph of Kurska and the Yadkin River. We have one major rain event during the month. Rainfall totals, it's been awfully dry so far. And then the drought map, which is not encroaching on any areas in Forsyth County, so we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Production was actually up. Average production for 2021 for May was 38 MGD, and for this month in 2022 it was 39.1, which represents a 2.8% increase. It's at 1.1 MGD. We did receive 5.19 inches of rain during May. The average is about 4.7, so it's pretty close to our average numbers. Water quality sampling at each of the plants, total 26,954 samples for the month. We have 39 service calls ranging, lead, copper, taste, odor, and whatnot. None of these are significantly out of the ordinary. Turbidity for the month, the max was 0.08, average was about 0.05, so those numbers are typical. The minimum for chlorine residual was 0.72, and the average was 1.53. We had 186 routine coliform samples, none of which were positive. Inspections, we had 8. 1 was positive, it was resampled, it was a negative. So
Let me ask a question, Bill. So the 25 discolored water, is that something just construction going on and so water comes through? How do you resolve fixing that issue?
usually it's referred for flushing in the area. And typically those are related to main breaks. That's usually the most common cause, or fire department can be out flushing, they can get the system started up locally. So those are the typical reasons that they say. So water quality parameters, you will start seeing those because this year is a lead and copper compliant sampling period. We're on reduced sampling, which means that we sample every 3 years. In 2022 is one of our sampling years. So you will start to see WQTs.
So Bill, kind of going along with Wesley's question. So if you get a phone call about taste and odor, tell me what the process for that is. What do you do?
It depends on the nature of the call. Typically that goes to our laboratory and the chemist will reach out to the customer. Sometimes if it's a dead end, if they live on a dead end and they have a hydrant in the area, we'll refer to UFO to do a hydrant flush. And there's a number of those that we seem to have routine calls throughout the years that we hit routinely.
The same residents or the same area?
See, some of them are same residents. But it depends on the nature of the call. If it's an MIV or geosmin call, which we typically see in the summer from Swan plant, then we'll make chemical adjustments to address that.
and I want to add something to Mr. Carter's comment. So if we see that we're getting a lot of calls in a certain area because of like dead ends, we have installed automatic flushers in areas where we know we need to get the water turned over more. So it would just be so if we see an issue, we try to address it with a more of a permanent solution.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. As Chris mentioned, development is through the roof. So for this fiscal year, We have issued 58 water and sewer conveyance permits totaling $11.2 million. This is the breakdown of water and sewer mileage. 13.9 miles of water mains have been conveyed and 10.6 miles of sewer mains have been conveyed. Collection system update. We did receive the April report this morning, about 10 o'clock. We received 1 notice of deficiency, 1 notice of violation, and 4 notice of intended enforce. So we'll respond to the 4 NOI letters within 10 days and wait to see what the state says as far as penalties go. Sanitary sewer overflows. May, we had a little bit of rain, mostly 1 rain event. June so far has been very dry. And if we finish up, strong, we're going to be well below where we were last year in 2020. So we're on pace to have another record year as far as SSO count goes.
Great.
Yes, great.
Last year was low. The last 2 years were low.
Last 2 years have been records, so this will be another one. This is the 12-month sanitary sewer overflows by cause. The red line is the 5-year trend line. You can tell in May we were below that. We had 5 SSOs total. 1 was pipe failure and the other 4 were fog, roots, and debris related. And I believe this last chart is cleaning productivity. For the month of May, both internal and external crews cleaned a total of 36 miles of pipe. So we are well above the permit requirement of 10% and right at our scheduled cleaning goal of 18%. Any questions?
There's one. Once we get a pipe clean, where out in the future does that pipe get cleaned again?
It depends. So that scheduled cleaning goal, every pipe is different. It depends on what's upstream. Maybe there's an apartment complex, maybe there's industrial, commercial buildings, restaurants. Every pipe, and once we clean it, we put it on a schedule. And it could be anywhere from 30 days to 10 years. And once you do that, once you clean that pipe a couple times, let's say you put it on a 1-year cycle. If you go back in a year and it's perfectly clean, you might want to stretch that frequency out a little bit. If you come back in a year and it's extremely dirty, you'll compress it down.
So you're inventorying these by each pipe?
Yes. Yeah. So far, it's paying dividends.
It really is. The program has been really successful.
I'll be reviewing the water and wastewater expenditures and revenues with you. As you can see, this current year or current month, May, we're coming in at $40.8 million of revenue, or excuse me, expenditures, which is below the expenditures that we had the same period of last year and below the budget amount. And we're on track to end the year at the below the budget amount. As for revenues, so we're coming in at $115.2 million, which is increase from last year, and we are over the budget amount, or we're on track to end the year at target budget amount for this fiscal year. Delinquent accounts, we're tracking about the same as we did last year when it comes to delinquent accounts. As you can see, there's a month-to-month deviation that takes place between April and May, and that is because we go back and purge and categorize accounts differently. When we send them to collections, that would explain the differences between the April and May for both of those years. And good thing, or great news about our arrears, we're in much better shape than we were last year and the previous year. So just to contextualize this, this is the lowest it's been since April, I think May of the beginning of the pandemic. So we're in a pretty good spot.
I have a question. I think it's the same.
Well, I was headed to this a little bit, just trying to see what we were doing in 19 maybe versus now, to see if we'd gotten back down to a more normal balance than what we'd had. So I think this basically comes close to, yeah.
Yeah, we're on track. We're on track.
Yeah, because the blue is pre-pandemic, so
yeah,
some of that goes into 19, or yeah, so July, August, September, October.
So we still got a little ways to go, but we're
Get better. Yeah.
Now, our expenses on that, a couple slides back, they look pretty close to what budget was. I mean, Is it that we have so many open vacancies? Is that the main reason?
Some of it is salary savings, expenditures, the supplies and services are actually tracking about the same. Last year, I think several invoices were posted a little bit earlier than we have seen this year. So that would explain why we're probably slightly below. In period 12 in June, we typically pay outstanding invoices and finish up with our fourth quarter charges. So basically our burn rate increases in June. So we'll end up closer to the budget amount, but probably not at over budget.
So even with all the inflation with fuel and chemicals and all that stuff that we probably had no idea how much it was going to go up at the beginning of that budget year, we're still.
We're tracking, and you're exactly right. The salary savings are we're seeing dividends there.
So Ricky, I just want to make sure the policy is still in place, that whatever savings there is at the end of June, divided amongst all the commission members.
Unfortunately, that is not.
Is that a motion? Is that a motion?
Tom, it's real good. We're close to the judge.
We do a couple of.
Somebody must have prepped him.
Any other questions?
Make it much easier for city charge like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, revenues above and expenses below. That's the right direction.
That's what you want to hear, right?
Lisa, keep it, make sure your successor keeps that going for us.
Quick question before we leave there. Have we ever drawn down First Scott?
Will you answer that? Did you
One
have
time. And if we need to do that again, is there some kind of warning system that goes out to the people up around that way? That on properties and things. How do we handle that?
Bill, did you hear his question? He wanted to know if we ever have drawn down Curse Scott. And then if you do, is there a notification that goes out to the property owners?
Get your boat out of the water.
One time, there was a situation where big drought, long-term, what year? 1912. And we had a downstream neighbor who shall remain nameless, who, because of low flows, was complaining about our sewer discharge into the aggregate and what it was doing to their intake down below us. And so we opted to drop a foot or so at the lake and just put some water in the river. Right, it was dilution to calm them down.
And how long did that take?
It doesn't take hardly any time.
To ask for it and get it?
You've got
Contract allows,
that.
he gives us the right.
We have the right to make the call.
I mean, you call them and it's
You
3
call the
days
fish
later.
and no, about the next day, it starts flowing. It's coming.
It takes 48 hours.
To get here.
Yeah, from when they start the discharge to where
They'll
we see
start
it.
the discharge the next day.
This might be a new guy with the dam now. He don't know the rules.
Well, I mean, it was 1912.
And I would say for Mr. Eustace's benefit, because he may not, since he's new, so we control the top 30 feet at Curse Scott. Us and Wilkes County, because we participated in funding, we being the utility commission for the city, I guess it was the Winston-Salem at the time, city of Winston-Salem, participated in the funding of that dam, and we still help fund the maintenance of the dam. So if we were ever to be in a drought condition here, we could ask for the release of that water in Wilkesboro, and then it comes downstream, comes down the Yadkin River to help us with our intake for water supply.
Well, in 1912, it was just Winston, wasn't it?
And it wasn't that far back. It was 1960, right? It was in the 60s, 1960. It was actually in the 60s.
Might have been 13, I think.
Could have been 13. Okay. That's operating.
All right.
Okay, Jan, your turn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Garbage, exactly. So through the month of May, we've taken in 272,201 tons at Haynes landfill, still ahead of the budget and ahead of the previous year. If you look at it on a month-by-month basis, we did drop a little bit below the expected or the target budget for the month of May. So it's been a volatile year. See all the ups and downs in that curve.
Well, the up was when you closed.
Exactly. Yes, Old Salisbury was closed and there was a lot of demolition that
So,
in March.
so what caused it to go below the line after you opened it back up?
You know, at the end of the year, we'll do a more detailed analysis, but there's nothing obvious. So the commercial haulers are just about all down.
Ryan around seeing you piling up on the side street.
I have not seen that.
We haven't lost anything significant somewhere else, have we?
Well,
Like a major-
you know, we might not know that until after the end of the year when we get the annual reports from the private landfills.
On the Troy.
But all the commercial, like the big private haulers are all down for April and May. So there could be something going on where they're hauling more to their own landfills.
Do we have any outstanding debt on them people bringing landfill stuff?
Did you say debt, like unpaid? Like
Right, unpaid.
Surprisingly, no. We look at a credit check before we issue a charge account, and we have very few write-offs.
That's historically true.
Yeah. We do cut off customers if they get in arrears. Old Salisbury Road, the construction and demolition stream is back to average, I would say. We did 3,200 tons in. So. Expenditures overall for all the solid waste programs are at 6.7 million, so a little bit ahead of last year. Slightly, very $100,000 or something. And as with water and sewer, revenues are at 11.4, which is above last year and above the budget. So in good shape at that point. Just a quick reminder of the MSC berm project at Haynes Landfill. We've updated the schedule slightly. We do need to have additional capacity constructed by early 2025. And we have the environmental justice report ready to submit. That's ready today, as a matter of fact. Planning.
That's an actual picture of the wall?
It is a wall.
Okay.
Yes, it is an example.
On our wall.
It is an example of one things. So the planning board approval is one of the steps that we need. That'll be targeted for the August meeting. I think we told you July in the previous schedule, so we're looking at August now for that.
And that's a public hearing.
It will be. Franchise renewal is the third piece that we'll have to complete this calendar year. We anticipate the fall for that, September, October. Not totally certain what that will look like. So questions about that process? Or any of the
There's another public hearing we have to have. You have an idea about what that might be?
meaning, now the franchise ordinance has 2 readings before council.
Right.
So you can consider those
Right.
public meetings.
What about the neighborhood? Are you referring to public, like our neighborhood meeting or a
Yeah,
public hearing?
yeah.
The neighborhood meeting. We don't have that scheduled, but I don't know when we have to have one, I guess.
It would occur, it's part of the planning board process, so that would occur probably during the
Okay.
month of July. It's not been scheduled yet. But we would do that outreach in advance of the August 11th.
And we'll let you know when that is.
Yes, it would occur after your July meeting, so we could let you know that in the July meeting, so you would get advance notice of when that's gonna
Okay.
happen.
Okay, let's jump into the agenda items.
So the goal today, most of you obviously have had a chance to read through the various items. The goal today is, as we go through these, Courtney will read them out. When we get to the end, I'm hoping that of all the items we've gone through, we can just vote on it just as a consent, especially since we've got to go through the roll call because we are hybrid. If there are, at the end though, if there are any items we need to pull out, we'll pull out and we'll vote on it separately and discuss that as well.
I'm gonna, so doing a little bit different this time. We've sectioned it off into the different divisions. So Bill and Mike and Jane will go over their items briefly. So of course, item number 2 is approval of the meeting minutes from May, which you guys have seen. And Mike, if you want to start with 3.
Yep. Item 3 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of various agreements regarding proposed water and sanitary sewer improvements to be installed within various developments. There's 17 different developments, estimated total water improvements, $3,407,350. Estimated total sewer improvements, $4,892,950.
Is that the biggest we've ever had in a month?
Oh,
It's a
pretty
lot.
close.
It is. I don't know if it is, but it's gotta be in
Yeah, it's
there.
gotta be pretty close.
Last 4 years.
Any other questions on item 3? Item 4 is a consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of a utility agreement with the NCDOT for utility work related to the construction of the Northern Beltway from US 311 to I-40. NCDOT has prepared and adopted plans to construct the Northern Beltway from US 311 to I-40. Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Utilities is responsible for the cost related to relocating water and sewer infrastructure within NCDOT's right of way. If you recall, we've taken these items to you guys in the past. Basically, it's prior rights. If whoever was there first, DOT had the right of way, we put our infrastructure there, we pay for it. If we have infrastructure outside of the right of way, they're responsible for the cost of relocating it. Estimated total construction cost for all utility work is $2,051,048. And Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities will be responsible for $1,136,577 for this total. Any questions on that?
So Mike, when we do planning with these major road projects like this, how, budgeting, how far in advance can you come up with this kind of figure for planning purposes? Or how close are you getting as you're developing planning?
Todd Lewis works hand in hand with NCDOT. It's hard to project these things out more than a couple of years. We know they're on the radar. This section of the Beltway is the last section of the eastern portion of the Beltway. It connects all the way down to US 311. So we knew it was coming until we see their plans and know exactly the impact of the utility relocation. We don't really have a good idea. But the way our capital project program is set up, we have some buffer and some contingency money built in to handle those things if they go up or down based off our estimates.
So how close are we?
We have enough money to cover this easily.
I didn't answer the question.
I don't know exactly how close we are.
Well, if you remember, the DOT capital budget line item includes all projects. So we'd have to go back and really dive into the details to see which, all the projects and, the estimates.
What was that for last year?
What we asked for?
Yeah.
I can't
I can't
remember.
remember off the top of my head. Go back.
And the thing with these agreements, these DOT agreements, we have to have the funds initially, but we don't pay it until the very end of the project. So this is a 2 or 3 year project. We tie the funds up and then pay, one check at the very end. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, last one for me. Consideration of a resolution authorizing a contract for information system support services. As recommended in the Utilities Information Management Master Plan, it is necessary to have an IS support contract that provides additional support for critical systems. This contract will provide much needed enterprise integration platform, data management, geographic information systems, and business analytics support. City County Purchasing issued a request for proposal for utility IS support services, and 4 proposals were received. 4 proposals were received from Excel BI, Black & Veatch, Soft Sages, and Winston Technology Consulting LLC. Based upon the evaluation panel's assessment, it is recommended that a contract be awarded to Black & Veatch Corporation in the annual amount not to exceed $175,000, with option to extend for 2 additional years, making the total potential value of the award not to exceed $525,000. Any questions on this one?
So in these instances where we're making the selection based on services, where Black and Beach has been one of the vendors applying, how long has it been since we did not select Black and Beach? And you may not have an answer.
Well,
Yeah, we'll have to, I mean, I can tell you for sure that it's not been that, I mean,
is your question, how long has it been that they've
Since we've chosen
proposed?
someone else when Black and Beach is in the mix.
Oh, I would
Because, I
say
mean, this
as
is
recently
based-
as 2 or 3 months back.
Okay, so, because this isn't based primarily on price, it's based on this ranking scale.
Right.
So you're saying that we've had something within the past year based on that ranking scale, the Black and Beach did not get selected.
I would say we've had multiple RFQs or RFPs where they have not been selected. Black and Beach, HDR, a lot of these local engineering firms, they propose on almost every project we put out. And they get some and they probably lose way more than they get.
Well, I just, Black and Beach seems to be a preferred provider. I just wanted to make sure that we are getting other sources in the mix as well.
It was HDR last month.
HDR, another preferred provider.
yeah, and I'd say HCR and Black and Beach, they do, obviously some of our larger projects like Nelson, Black and Beach is the engineer on there, they've got the expertise. Same thing with HDR, but to Mike Stover's point, yes, we do make sure that we use other firms as well.
Well, it's easy when you look, I guess, as you're looking at, I guess, to Chris's point, when you're looking at the rankings, everybody's voting, you can always pull the votes to get who you think is the best to do it, and you always end up with the same person. So, but I'm sure the persons that are in the room, that are looking at this, hopefully are looking beyond that, truly looking at the numbers and not trying to.
And I'm looking back here at Chantel because she makes sure that we do that. And the scoring criteria, with Chantel's team and Jakira and the Office of Business Inclusion Advancement, the scoring criteria, we try to be as objective as possible. So they're defined limits that we look at to give them the scores. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but
you are correct about that. And we try to make sure that score sheet, like you said, is objective as possible. And that it's clear, if they've got 3 to 10 years experience, they get this score. If they, have this many in their firm working, they get this score. So we make sure that they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
That's right.
Any other questions, Brian?
Okay, items 6 through 10 cover bids that were put out for chemicals at water and wastewater treatment plants. If there's no objection from the commission, I'd like to read the backstory because it's very similar in all these chemicals. And then we'll proceed to each resolution in time. If you have any questions, I'll answer those. So due to current volatility in chemical markets conditions, price escalations in the raw materials used to produce bulk chemicals and increasing transportation costs, the current suppliers of these chemicals are used at the water and wastewater plants requested price increases above which are allowed through our current contracts. Due to this, city county purchasing requested bids for these chemicals. After consultation with various chemical vendors, city county purchasing and Winston-Salem for Side County utility staff determined 6 months contracts would return the most competitive pricing. So resolution number 6 is consideration of a resolution awarding a term contract to CNS Chemicals for aluminum sulfate at the water treatment plants. Bids were received on May 24th for aluminum sulfate. We received bids from 4 different vendors. So staff recommends awarding the purchase order to CNS Chemical for an estimated 510 dry tons of aluminum sulfate at an estimated cost of $213,690. If this contract is awarded over it's an initial contract with 2.5. The contract would be 2.5 years and 6 month periods. The estimated cost of the contract would be $213,000 or $1,068,000 $450. So are there any questions regarding those?
So the powers that be must feel, for whatever reason, that these prices are gonna come down.
Well, they're very, right now, they're very volatile. And I do believe over time they will come down. We encountered a similar situation in 2008 where we saw some very steep increases. And once the market pressures came off the situation, they came back down significantly.
So the volatility is all in one direction right now.
Right.
That is correct.
So you've got it set up for 2.5 years if you need it, but if at the end of 6 months, if the prices come down in the marketplace, you're gonna rebid?
We have the option to rebid. We will discuss with the supplier at that time. And based on these producer price index, if we feel like it's advantageous to us to rebid it.
Scrap this and start over.
I got a question. This is estimated tons. Does this come in a bulk truck or bags?
This chemical comes in a bulk tanker, but usually about 4,000 gallons.
So we know it's how many tons is in the truck on bill of lading or something. I mean, it's just not, who checks how many tons it is?
Well, our operators have quality checks that they do when a shipment has arrived. And based on their analysis, we can calculate what's actually in that truck.
Before Bill 3 go on item 7, just for all the chemical items that he is going to discuss. So we increased our budget for chemical costs by around 13%. So obviously it's not the percentages that you see here.
130, yeah.
Overall chemical costs went up. We increased them in the budget on 350,000. So we are gonna monitor this closely. And obviously, you know, we will, hopefully we'll have some salary savings in other places to absorb this, but it is something that we have to keep on our radar, and we're going to be monitoring very closely.
Chemicals can be tricky because usually by the time you bid them, the budgeting process is over. So you're always a little bit behind the 8 ball. But as Courtney mentioned, there are contingencies built in this very specific line items that will help us cover cost increases.
Is there any advantage? I know with some of the other stuff we do, we get together with, you know, other municipalities in North Carolina. Is there any like bulk purchase advantages that we could have coordinating with other municipalities on these chemical purchases?
There are, and purchasing actually looked at that before we rebid this. They looked at other contracts that we could possibly piggyback on. And
They were paying higher.
okay,
In a lot of respects, the other counties were paying higher rates. And so we didn't think that it was advantageous for us to piggyback on those contracts.
Well, thank you for checking.
Mm-hmm. Item number 7 is consideration of a resolution awarding a term contract to Sterling Water Technologies LLC for zinc orthophosphate at the water treatment plants. Bids were received on May 20th for zinc orthophosphate, delivered as needed. There were 4 bidders. Sterling Water Technologies LLC was considered the lowest responsible bid at 100 dry tons at an estimated cost of $229,333. This is the same term. It's 1 year with 4 additional extensions. If awarded, the contract and extended, the contract total estimated expenditure over 2.5 years is approximately $1,146,665. Questions for item number 7?
This one says delivered as needed, so you just don't have a bulk show up. Plant, is storage issues with it or life expectancy of the chemical itself?
No, all chemicals can be considered to be ordered as needed. We typically have 2 storage tanks, when one's empty, we order the other. And start off. Item number 8 is a consideration of a resolution awarding a term contract to Univar Solutions USA, Inc. for sodium bisulfite at the Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant. Bids were received on May 25th, 2022 for sodium bisulfite to be delivered as needed at the Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant. 4 bids were received, and Univar Solutions USA, Inc. Was considered the lowest responsible bidder at $38,750 for approximately 12,500 gallons of sodium bisulfite. This one is renewable semi-annually with allowable decreases not to exceed the producer price index. If the contract is awarded and extended, the total estimated expenditure over two years for this one would be approximately $155,000. Any questions regarding item number 8? Item number 9 is consideration of a resolution awarding a term contract to Southern Ionics for sodium bisulfite at RTL wastewater treatment plant. Bids were received on May 25th, 2022. For sodium bisulfite delivered at Elledge. There were 3 bidders for this contract. Southern Ionics Incorporated was the lowest responsible bidder at $77,400 for an estimated 30,000 gallons of sodium bisulfite. If awarded and extended, the total estimated expenditure over 2 years will be approximately $309,600. Excuse me. Any questions on item number 9? Item number 10 is consideration of a resolution awarding a current contract with JCI Jones Incorporated for 25% caustic at the wastewater treatment plants. Bids were received on May 26, 2022. 25% cost we delivered to the plants. JCI Jones Incorporated was the lowest responsible bidder at $56,790 for an estimated 45 dry tons of 25% caustic soda. If awarded and extended, the total estimated expenditure over 2 years would be approximately $227,160. Questions on item 10? Item number 11 is consideration of a resolution awarding a change order to S&F Polygon Inc. for polymer at the RTL wastewater treatment plant for the remainder of fiscal year 2022. On November 8, 2021, the commission approved a resolution authorizing a contract to S&F Polygon for purchase of Clariflock SE 986 polymer at RTL in the estimated amount of $147,000 for the fiscal year 2022. Purchase order was issued to S&F Polygon Inc. for $143,325. Change orders have been executed in a total amount of $64,455.49 at the city manager's authority. In addition, 1 load of polymer has been received and invoiced at $41,507.69 and is waiting to be paid. Staff has calculated based on current usage of 1 additional load, and the estimated amount of $45,000 will be required to meet demand through the end of this fiscal year. Staff recommends approval of a combined change order for $86,507.69 to cover necessary charges against purchase order 35-311 for Clarify SE 986 polymer through the end of fiscal year 2022. Once approved, the total amount for this purchase order will be $294,288.18. Questions for budget item number 11? No questions. We'll go to 12 is consideration of a resolution awarding a contract for lagoon residuals removal and land application at PW Stormwater Treatment Plant. The water treatment division and utilities department has a need for a contractor to perform a more alum residuals removal and land application at the PW Swan Water Treatment Plant residual lagoons. These lagoons are cleaned out on approximately 1.5 year rotation, and each lagoon averages about 3,500 to 4,000 cubic yards of material. Terms of the RFP provide for an initial contract of 1 year with the option to extend the contract for 2 additional years, 2 additional 1-year terms through June 30th, 2025, provided both parties agree and the funds are made available for this purpose. Based upon the evaluation panel's assessment, it is recommended that the purchase order be awarded to EMA Resources in the annual amount not to exceed $70,000, with an option to extend for 2 additional years, making the total potential value of the award not to exceed $210,000.
So Bill, these alum residuals, what would you spread that, what type of land would you spread that over?
These typically, you can use any type of land that's used for agricultural purposes. But these are typically at Swan because we apply it in liquid form. This is usually put on grass fields that are used for hay. But you can put it on any agricultural crop field.
So if I look at this next item you're about to get to, where we're paying for fertilizer and seed. Just asking, because I know fertilizer has gotten really expensive.
Jan would talk to.
I don't know if Alan would give us the nutrients that we need to grow grass. Do you think?
Plus, there might be residuals of other things you don't want to show up in the landfill by any means. There could possibly be some residuals that you don't like that are okay for agriculture, but these low levels that they have to test for in landfills, if you call it leachate, can cause a huge problem.
So it's okay on the
It's okay with you.
It's okay on the food.
Okay
It's
for
not
cows.
okay for the-
Okay for cows, but not for garbage. Okay.
Kind of what it sounds like.
Okay.
And really, that, like she said, that give you the nutrients.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of having a moment from getting off of this, but you know, the wastewater, we process a lot of the waste from that, and then we burn it and sell that out. I mean, I just know when they're talking about the food scarcity issues, it seems to be water and fertilizer that are creating most of the challenges right now. So if we're producing fertilizer, I would just want to be making sure we're getting whatever best.
Yeah, I don't know that our residual has much of a nutrient
Impact.
Yeah, because most of the farmers that we apply to are really looking for the lime application that we have to put on after the fact.
This is a water plant, not sewer plant.
So, right, but I was kind of extrapolating to the next, at the wastewater treatment plants, what we produce from there.
I got you.
And I assume we're selling that to somebody.
Then we probably pay them.
I don't know. I don't know what do we do with that waste from the
Water treatment.
The dryer, we use it's a dryer facility, and then we create pellets.
That's what.
And then we do sell it to
Forestry.
to a vendor. Yeah. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. To land applied as well.
I just know fertilizer costs are going way up.
Well, and I think that's
Good way to
important.
pay for it. I mean, I don't know, can we make use of that?
I think that's important to make sure, because even though solid waste and water sewer are separate, we do need to make sure that we talk to each other. And if there are some applications that we can use for solid waste to go and going across to all divisions, we definitely need to do that. So I think it's something to put on our radar and think through.
Sure, you thought of that before, though. There's some reason why
Well,
we can't. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and for this particular situation, it's the water treatment, so it doesn't give it doesn't have the properties that we need. But definitely on the wastewater side, that that maybe that is something that we need to. I'm sure they've thought about before, but we need to look into it a little bit more.
What's some constituents from wastewater treatment plant, like 111 or,
Not at water treatment plants, you won't probably get any.
I mean, wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, wastewater, yeah, it could be 111, something.
More like 111. It's not like, you know.
It's not fire.
Yeah.
111.
No,
Yeah, I don't know the exact proportion, but I can find out.
it's gonna be a low.
Like one.
So is somebody paying for it or are we paying them to take it away?
It does have a smell to it also. So when you guys come into City Hall next week, you smell something strange, it's gonna be in the grass.
Okay.
There are some limitations with how
There's a
we
limitation.
categorize our, even the pellets, the pellets that we generate. And we'll definitely look into that and follow back up, but there are some stipulations, even what we can use that for, so.
Application rate might be awful high, stack it up.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling from you right now.
But I think it's definitely a good point. Yeah.
Okay. All right, next.
So as you mentioned, item 13 is a resolution awarding a contract for seeding services at Haynes Mill Road and Old Salisbury Road. So those landfills have an ongoing need to apply seed and fertilizer when we disturb land at those sites. Purchasing issued a request for proposals. We received 2 responses to that. One was SAS Seeding LLC, which is the current provider of that service, and they have service for several years. And Harper Landscaping also responded. SAS is the lowest responsive bid, and so we are recommending that a contract be awarded to them in an amount, annual amount of $85,000 for 3 years, which would make the not to exceed total $255,000.
Fascinating number in that is that there were 121 contractors that were sent RFPs, and you got 2 responses.
And isn't that interesting? I'm not sure why that is, and it's been that way for several years. But SAS has been the incumbent for
Hard
I
work.
think 10 years.
We are finding that that is the norm though over all items that we're trying to buy, whether it's a commodity or service. We can send it out to 100 folks and we may get back 2 or 3 responses. It's just the nature of the businesses not wanting to commit themselves to a year of a certain unit price.
It could be also that 50 acres is not a particularly large noun. So it's spread out over the year. It's not all at one time.
And I know that I've introduced virtually Chantel before in one of our previous meetings, but Chantel McClam is the purchasing director. She filled Jerry's role. And I know I've introduced her virtually, but now that we're in person, and we're having to, she's helping us out a lot with, obviously we spend a lot of money and go through the procurement process. So she definitely is assisting us with that. Okay, the next item is item 14, and this is a resolution approving changes to the wastewater monitoring fees. We went through a cost of service study and looked at several fees, some of which we mentioned last month. And that was one of the items that I referred to earlier that we're going to need to have a separate planning and policy committee on. But this is for industrial waste monitoring charges. And we, I think it's straightforward enough that we go ahead and bring it to the commission for approval. Currently, we charge a rate for these parameters, for monitoring these parameters that you see on the screen. And we looked at outside lab average cost and we were below. So we're recommending the fees be adjusted accordingly. And so you can see from the table what the recommended charges are. And these would be effective July 1st.
Example of what those.
Yeah, so examples, I've got a sheet here somewhere. So these are for our significant industrial users. And so a particular company that might use us for sampling is, where am I not finding that? Ingredion, PepsiCo or Pepsi, RJ Reynolds, dairy farmers. Those are the type of industries that they have a permit where they have to monitor, but we also monitor them as well and charge them for those monitoring fees. So those are just a few examples.
So I guess basically another company, it's required that they be monitored first. But they can use different labs to actually perform the test to then do that. So we're just one of those.
Yeah, so the way it works is so depending on what the the industrial user is, depends on what their permit requirements are. So it's based on their wastewater discharge, they may have more permit requirements, more monitoring requirements. So they have to get monitoring on their own. We also monitor them to do a QA, quality control, kind of making sure that the parameters are right. We then charge them back those costs. That's all part of their permit. There are other customers that maybe they don't have the same permit requirements, but they may ask us to sample for them if they don't go to another lab.
Right.
So it's kind of there's different situations where they would need us to do those sampling, but there are also some that we do just on an ongoing basis, just.
So let me try to step through it in my mind. So let's say rentals. So they, have whatever discharge they have back into our system. So they may have requirements by NCDEQ that they produce some lab reports to meet those requirements. Then we also want to make sure that they're not discharging something that's going to screw up our wastewater and knock the books.
Right.
Whatever that may be. Along, was that one of those chemicals earlier? So they may be having to get this done by a private vendor for DEQ, but if they turn it over to us, we can meet our requirements and their DEQ requirements.
So it's all through us. So we have the program. We have the authority to run the program. So they're required through us to do monitoring. But then we also monitor them ourselves. It's really no different than we monitor ourselves and submit things to DEQ. For example, with our sampling for water and wastewater treatment. And DEQ also can come in and monitor us. It's kind of check back on us as well. So it's kind of that same, due diligence.
Due diligence follow.
But we would only monitor those companies that would be discharging back to wastewater that we treat.
Correct.
And the reason I ask that is, say you've got a private wastewater system that requires DEQ approval. In order to do that, you hire a lab to test all that.
Right.
That is, somebody could come and say, hey, utilities, could you be that lab for me?
No, we wouldn't. We would not do it for somebody that's not a customer of ours.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we would not.
And what is the typical revenue in all of this in a year?
Do you have that on the top of your head, Ricky?
I don't know.
We'll have to, I know we pulled the numbers, but I can't remember it. We can definitely follow up with that.
And I mean, with this, I know we went through this process. I guess you had some type of meeting. To come up with these rates, I mean, so these are kind of in line with, because you want to make sure revenues and expenses are pretty tight on this. And so we've been behind. When's the last time we've done this analysis?
So I don't know.
2019,
I think it's even
12.
before that. I think it goes back. I think it goes back before then. I don't, it's not been since I've been in this role. So, and that was 2016, and I can't remember.
Yeah, with the increased cost of chemicals.
And just overall, these type of fees, the revenue that we generate, it's not a huge amount of our overall revenue, but we do want to try to recoup the cost for the charges, the monitoring charges. So, any other questions on that one? Okay, the last item is a memo. It's not for approval. but it is to report the terms of the settlement agreement that we discussed in closed session in our April meeting. This is between Winston-Salem County Utilities and MWH Constructors. It's bulleted terms of the settlement. I guess the main takeaways that I wanted to point out was that they did agree, the parties did agree to a balance to be paid to MWH in the amount of $11.2 million. The parties agreed to release and waive any and all claims, causes of action, demands, and suits against each other, except for those items listed in the sub-bullets. And then it does prohibit MWH from initiating a legal action. And then the last thing that we talked about is there was a request for a non-disparagement and no disqualification clauses in the agreement, which was declined, so that is not a part of the final settlement.
So Gail.
Yeah.
When Scott Saxon calls, are you ready? Okay. Because this memo is going out, I assume. I don't know who it goes to, but it's a matter of, we're a public.
Yeah, we're in a
It's
public,
matter of public record.
so I will say that we discussed the terms in closed session as far as what the commission would grant staff authority to do. But part of state statute does require that we do report out the settlement agreement, which is why they have to be reported in the meeting minutes, which is why there was a memo included in this agenda, and so it will be in the meeting minutes, the June meeting minutes.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the first release of it? Or is
Yeah, so this is us adhering to the statute where we have to report out the terms.
That's right. Whenever a public body has approved or considered a settlement in closed session, then we have to report back to you the terms of the settlement as soon as possible within a reasonable period of time after the settlement is concluded. And then it has to be entered in the meeting minutes as well.
That's right, we got legal counsel.
First.
This last sentence here, lastly, MWH's request to include a non-disparagement and no disqualification clause of its applying not include the final settlement. Does that mean if they determine that they are disparaged by us, we're back under this?
Well, I don't know when we're gonna write a disparaging letter.
They wanted us to include clauses that say if we wouldn't disparage them and we wouldn't take steps to disqualify them. We held our ground on that and said no. And so those terms are not in the settlement agreement. We're free to.
We're free to disparage them.
We don't know that they've agreed to this, do we?
No, it's done. It's been signed. The agreement has been signed and executed.
Okay.
The council's aware of it, everybody.
So we can say anything we want.
No, wait a minute, Tom.
Let's wait till we're.
Are we gonna send a letter to Dale Farwell so he won't call me?
We can discuss that.
I mean, they wouldn't have a cause of action.
But thanks to the legal staff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? That has been a.
Work with the mediators on.
Oh, thank you. I have to give credit where credit's due. It was, Courtney and
Yeah.
Mike
Well.
Stover and everybody and Ken Michael and Jim Morgan and Womble Von Dickinson.
Everybody.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, that was, difficult.
Not a fun process for sure.
But thank you again.
So, are there any other discussions on the agenda items for approval? If there are not, are there any items that you would like to pull from the consent agenda?
I would move approval for items 2 through 14.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Long for a second. I guess a roll call.
Commissioner Harold Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Harold Eustache,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines.
Yes.
Commissioner Hugh Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Parker.
Affirmative.
Commissioner Charles Wilson.
Yes.
That's.
Yes.
Did you hear Charles?
Yes.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yes.
All right, it sounds like that's a unanimous vote for items 2 through 12, so they are approved. 2 through 14, I'm sorry. 2 through 14. They're approved. At this time, we have on our agenda, I guess, to talk about capital improvement projects, but she is not here. Is that what I'm
Correct,
hearing?
yes.
So are there any other items or discussions that any commission members would like to talk about at this time? No, nothing? So it sounds like we are down to the last item on our agenda, which is, I don't know what we're gonna do with our health.
Not my problem.
Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
For the last time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting for all this good fellowship.
Second, me too. Do the first and the second.
All right, move to second, I guess roll call.
Yes. Commissioner Harold Day,
Yes, for the last time.
Commissioner Harold Eustache,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines. Yes. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yes.
Very good, sounds like we're approved, and to that, I guess we are adjourned.